sector and so many others, but one thing including measures actually like dispensation for sectors like tourism specifically and education. Now, whether the governments are actively managing outbreaks or returning to normalcy, economic recovery is a central pertinent issue, or is a central thing for us to have the forward-looking agenda. Now, this is where the Bankers Association comes in. The annual bankers, we have the annual bankers conference this year, where we're going to be where they will be discussing issues pertaining the post-COVID-19 economic recovery, and to see if actually different sectors have managed to move on, but also is the financial sector helping out to make sure that this has been escalated to help people and sectors move on. Today, that's what we're going to be discussing, and with me I have Vice Chairman, Mr. Julius Kaketo, and Communications and Corporate Affairs, Ms. Patricia Amito, in studio. A very good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
How are you?
Good morning, viewers.
Very well.
Preparations, how far? We're excited. So I don't know if you guys are excited.
We are very excited as UBA to have this event. Preparations are in high gear. This is Wednesday and the event is on Monday and Tuesday, so you can imagine how much work is going in there. But we are happy to host the 5th together with the Central Bank of Uganda. We are co-hosting. We have been co-hosting this event. So yes, we are very excited to have the public also join us for this event.
Okay. Now, the theme this year is bridging financing gaps in the manufacturing, tourism, and agribusiness sectors to catalyze economic recovery and the growth post-2021. Are financial institutions up to this task and responsibility? I love the question. I'll throw it back to you.
I will start.
Yes.
I think to answer that question, yes. The answer to the question is yes. Financial institutions are ready. But we are cognizant of the fact that we cannot do all this by our own, or on our own, or by ourselves. So the reason why we say, let's have this conversation with all the other stakeholders. All the other stakeholders, these are regulators, these are manufacturers, these are traders, these are tourism players. These are government itself. What more needs to be done to help these sectors recover? What are some of the gaps that we are seeing that are limiting these sectors from growing? Then it begs for the conversation on what else can be done once we've identified some of these gaps. Then what are some of the conversations we need to have? What are some of the partnerships we need to have? And we are definitely wanting to see, these are very key sectors for us, as you'll hear from our Vice Chair. But we are very keen to see these sectors actually come back to life. They've all been hit greatly by the pandemic in different magnitudes. And we are saying we're here to support, we want to support, we want to listen to all these sector players on what they think can be done to help them even better.
Mr. Kaketo, in the theme we specifically have manufacturing, tourism, agribusiness as sectors. Why those specific sectors?
Thank you, Sharon. If you look at Uganda's economy today, those 3 sectors are very instrumental in terms of driving economic growth and spurring economic growth. And they need to come up because of their multiplier effect. If you look at tourism, tourism is a key employer. Tourism attracts forex inflows, which is very important for stabilization of our Uganda shilling. If you look at manufacturing, manufacturing has an ecosystem that has distributors, that has a lot of other traders around it. Manufacturing is also very vital in terms of import substitution. It's very vital for export promotion. And this is part of NDP 3 for the country, the National Development Plan. So it is very vital that it kicks off. If you look at agribusiness, agribusiness is the largest employer in Uganda. Most of the SMEs who are very instrumental in terms of driving the economy are in one way or another involved in the agribusiness chain. be it production, logistics, trade, processing, and so on. So these three sectors were carefully chosen because we believe they are pointed towards spurring economic growth. Yes.
Okay. Maybe a little background as well about the Uganda Bankers Association and why you even formed in the first place.
Okay. Background, Uganda Bankers Association, or UBA, is an umbrella organization for financial institutions that are supervised and regulated by the Central Bank of Uganda. In terms of our membership, we are about 36 members on UBA, and this includes the 24 commercial banks. We have the development banks. We recently have taken on a new member, Afri-Exim Bank. We also have the microfinance deposit taking institutions. Those are also part of our members, and there are 9 in total. So in terms of why we were formed, it is one main mandate or objective is driving financial inclusion in Uganda, and also we mainly represent interests of our members, but also the customers that we serve. If there are issues that are burning, issues of concern that are coming out from the public, we listen and then sit with our membership, as well as the regulator, to address some of these concerns, particularly to ensure that whatever financial services we are delivering to our people are affordable, they are of good quality, and they are really being accessed and utilized to the extent that they should be. Even driving just financial inclusion, taking financial services beyond just the urban to the rural population, helping them build their livelihoods and helping them get into the habit of saving, helping them benefit from some of the products or services that the financial institutions offer. So really that's around what UBA work is. We do, a greater part of our work is on stakeholder engagement. We have a diverse category of stakeholder engagement from government, the regulators, statutory institutions here. We engage as much as possible and sit together and come up with solutions that are driving financial inclusion in the country.
Okay. What are some of the achievements that you've so far had? You started in 2017.
With the conference.
Yes, and you've only missed one conference because of COVID-19. Yes. Yeah. So what are some of the achievements that you've seen?
In 2017, our first conference focused on the future of banking. Future of banking, and from there we said the future of banking is more digital. Future of banking is people-centric. How do we...
What do you mean people-centric?
Coming up with services or products that are specific or address the demands or the needs of the people that we are actually serving. Not
and
just
what
sitting...
some of the demands and needs of the people that you're serving?
There are demands around products that are specific to women, for example. How do we come up with products that address the concerns of women? Women can actually access and use, the youth. So that was the 2017 conference, Future of Banking. Then we went into financial sector stability. What are some of the things that we need to focus on to ensure the financial sector remains resilient and stable? Then we went into to discuss how do we support the agriculture sector by way of de-risking. That was like the third thing for us. And the fourth, which was just last year, was the fourth industrial revolution and how the financial sector can continue to thrive in it. There was an interesting theme there, bend but not break. We were coming out of COVID. Why not coming out of COVID? We were in COVID. And we said, we need to survive. We need to still continue to grow these businesses. How do we do this? So you asked a good question. What are some of the things that have changed over time since 2017? I think, in my view, there is more awareness about what the financial sector can do among our stakeholders, beyond just extending credit. Credit, yes, is one of our key objectives, extending credit, but beyond that is we go into what more can we do by way of social responsibility. And you're seeing many of our members actually engaging in supporting women businesses. Youth programs are coming up. One of the key sectors that we had shied away from supporting was agriculture. We are seeing more of this being supported. But there's
Why
also...
had you shied away from supporting that?
Because of the risks, the perceived risks that come with, and because agriculture is
Because Mr.
seasoned.
Kaket, yes, and Mr. Kaketo said it's one of those pertinent ones in
Yes,
Uganda. It literally
yes,
drives the economy.
yes.
Most Ugandans are farmers
Yeah.
and agriculturalists.
So it's really, and all this is really mindset. How do you talk about this and come up with a solution and say this can work? It's not that bad, or there's a way we can come around it. There are alternative financing options that are available, mechanisms that the sector can take on to try and support some of these sectors that we have not been supporting fully in the past. I'll probably let my vice chair also throw in his word of it.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sharon. I think there have been several achievements since we started the annual Bankers Conference. Following the very first one, the future of banking, banks came together for the ABC, Agent Banking Platform, which was a very good innovation, banks sharing the same platform. We saw the creation of the consortium for insurance to support lending to agriculture, because the whole idea was around de-risking the agriculture sector and how can banks come in to support this very vital sector. So those are two major wins that I thought should be touched on. Yeah.
Interesting. Now we also have objectives. I believe you have objectives for this conference. What are some of those? And why those specific ones? Yes.
Yeah, we do have objectives that we intend to achieve with this conference. One important one that comes out from the theme is one of the objectives. We want to take stock of what the financing gaps are that are constraining manufacturing, tourism, as well as agribusiness from growing, from advancing the recovery agenda on their own. What are some of these gaps? Then once we've identified some of these gaps, it's how do we then, as financial institutions, how do we then bridge these gaps? How do we reduce some of these gaps to ensure that the financing that is required, the support that is required by these sectors is actually channeled to them in a more sustainable way. The other objective is we want to hear. I think I mentioned earlier, we listen. And this is something that has come up from the conferences. We bring stakeholders together into a room and talk about some of these pertinent issues. And then we hear from them, what more do you expect financial institutions or the financial sector to support in the agenda of recovery? Yeah.
Okay. Who can participate in this event? I know you've talked about stakeholders and the government and all, but who is this conference exactly for? Specifics maybe.
Okay. In terms of the participants, we are looking to engage with manufacturers, one, traders. We are also looking to engage with tourism players, tourism sector players, and these are members of the Tourism Association. Behind, I know the Vice Chair mentioned, behind some of these sectors, there's a whole lot of economic activity that gets supported. If you look at just tourism, for example, there are tour operators behind there. There are people who are providing accommodation. There are people who are restaurant owners, all supporting these tourists, domestic or foreign, who actually go out on tourism adventures. And these are some of the SMEs that we are looking at. What is stopping you from growing? And we hope to have many of these in the room. We've invited the key ministries, Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Tourism. Many of the team in there will be in the room with us. We have the PSs of each who will be with us in the room, and they will speak to us as well. They'll have remarks that they'll make. And the general public, our customers, our own financial institutions actually are also going to be, in as much as the event, we are doing it with them, But within there are staff. There are also staff in the financial institutions who would still benefit from the conversations that will happen in the room. Yeah.
This will go to anyone that is comfortable answering you. I'll just take a little bit back. You talked about the one of the objectives being that you want to bridge the financing gaps. Have you found out what some of those are before even the conference? So you already sort of know what you're going to, you sort of know your expectations, but you also want to listen to the stakeholders, anyone that is participating?
Thank you. Maybe I can have a crack at that, Sharon. Yes, we have an idea about some of the challenges around financing these sectors, but it's very important that you take the conversation to the next level and actually discuss these actual challenges with the potential borrowers, the potential beneficiaries, the other players who contribute towards financing, and also for the financial institutions. They need to ready themselves after listening to getting feedback from the different players, especially the potential borrowers, that this is exactly what we need. This is what will work. And then they can come back and support better, as opposed to premeditating what you think the customer may require and then provide that solution. It's better you listen to the customer and then go back and try to come up with the right solutions.
But do you know some of the challenges or the gaps so far?
Yes, we know some of the challenges. We are aware. We are aware of interest rates is one of the challenges. In some cases, it is an issue of access. A borrower or potential borrower can afford, but then they don't have access to the actual service or the actual money they need. In some cases, it is an issue of what we call structures in banking, that for your kind of business, you need a product structured in a specific way. That's what would add value to your business, but then probably it is not available, or you don't know where to go. In some cases, there is a knowledge gap, that some of the borrowers don't know what is out there, what is available. So they struggle because they don't have the information. So we know there's a whole range of challenges, and that's why we're bringing other stakeholders, legislators, development partners, government, because they all contribute towards this conversation and the solutions, and then we'll see how to move forward. Yes.
For these days, a few days ago, the interest rates have become a topic or a discussion. People saying, oh my God, it's now high, and then there's inflation already going on, and people are suffering with the economy, people can't afford meals, people can't afford certain things, fuel prices are high. What do you have to say about the interest rates being one of those discussions? But also I'm glad that actually you're going to sort of talk about that in your conference.
Yes, we are. Interest rates are, it's an aggregate of so many variables that contribute towards an interest rate that a bank charges. There's the cost of the money, the funding, the cost of operations, the risk profiling of the customer, and so on and so forth. And if you look at the variables, some of them are within the control of the banks to actually address. Some of the other variables are actually outside the control of the banks. So, and that's why we want different stakeholders in the room, the regulator, the customers themselves, and we see how we can work together to address this need. Also, secondly, away from interest rates, there are now other forms of financing, and that's going to be discussed as well. You have green financing, you have, these days we've come up with so many new forms of financing.
What's green financing? That's interesting. Sounds like something to do with climate change. What's green financing?
Yes. Okay, in brief, it's financing that is subsidized, but then as a borrower, you conform to certain environmental sustainability, should I say compliance? You comply with certain expectations around protecting the environment, but then in return, your financing is also subsidized. So that is green financing in a nutshell. So you could be a manufacturer, you manage your wastage very well, you support corporate social responsibility, you keep a green environment, it can be so many factors. So these are new forms of financing, and it's one of the issues that will be discussed, other forms of financing, alternative forms of financing for these sectors, other than the traditional, or in addition to the traditional forms that we know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
But
you.
there are also, maybe if I could just add, there are opportunities that are presented themselves by way of expanding markets. You've heard of the African Free Continental Trade Area, but also there are discussions. Currently, I think there's a delegation that's in South Sudan. Previously, there was a delegation in Congo. And these are some of the destinations in terms of expansion, new markets that we want to get into. And there are requirements for you to actually play in those markets, whether it's the quality of your products, whether it's you internally, the institutional capacity that you have to actually grow your business to actually move on beyond just Uganda. And these are the challenges for which we want to sit together and say, okay, how do we get SMEX? How do we strengthen them to be able to play in some of these new markets that are coming up? Yeah, beyond just I give you money, but I want to go as a financial service provider. I want to go the extra mile to say, how do I help you beyond just I give you money and then you go? Because you need to be able to sustain yourself once you're actually there. And it's beyond just, it's operational, it's governance, it's all that social environment discussion as well that comes to play in there. How do you ensure that whatever you're doing, whatever your business is doing, actually does not have a negative impact in the community that you're serving, for example? Doesn't have a negative impact to the environment. So it's a conversation, it's a global conversation, but also us as the financial sector, we are also making do of that and saying we need, as a deliberate effort, make it something that is integrated across all our processes. How do we support? There are these wonderful ladies who are investing or who are doing work in crafts, for example. How do we help them grow their crafts market beyond just Uganda, beyond just National Theatre, beyond just Uganda Road? How do we help them carry some of these products across? Yeah.
Thank you. I think I love the idea, the fact that you guys are now going beyond financing to now the little nitty-gritties that make it even better, plus, you know, cutting across the country, but even out of the country. Well, we'll just take a short commercial break, and still we're discussing about the Uganda Bankers Association, which is hosting the 5th Annual Bankers Conference on Monday, 25th July 2022, and Tuesday, the 26th of July 2022. We'll be back.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
National Council for Higher Education will hold the 4th Annual Higher Education Conference on the 14th and 15th September 2022. The conference theme is Enhancement of Teaching, Learning and Assessment with Ordeal in Higher Education. The guest of honor will be the First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports, Honorable Janet Kataha Museveni. The conference will be held physically at Hotel Africana for only invited guests and open to online participants via Zoom webinar that will be shared under the events section at www.unche.or.ug. The keynote speakers are Ezra Nazim, Senior Fellow of Higher Education Academy UK, Professor Henk Gerald Sola, a Dutch organizational theorist and Emeritus Professor of Business, Engineering and ICT at Groningen University, the Netherlands. The National Council for Higher Education is receiving papers from researchers and scholars for publication in the Uganda Higher Education Review, Journal of National Council for Higher Education. For more details, send inquiries to cmuhumuza@unche.or.ug, info@unche.or.ug, or call 0783 04 0024 or 0704 80 0926 plus 256 39 32 62 140/4.
It's a full-time job to be a great parent or guardian. The decisions we make impact their lives forever, and getting a birth certificate is one of the most important ones. All you need to do is get a birth notification record stamped by a medical officer from the hospital where the baby was born, or from the sub-county chief in case it occurred at home. Go to the NERA offices in your area and present the notification record, copy of parent's ID, and bank payment slip of 5,000 Ugandan shillings for citizens and $40 for non-citizens. Fill NERA Form 3 while there, and a birth certificate will be issued to you. Please note that birth certificates to refugees born in Uganda are free of charge. For more information, visit the NERA office closest to you or call 0800-211-700. This message is brought to you by NERA.
I remember the lockdown, when the streets were empty and our lives disrupted, when businesses closed and our livelihoods hung in the balance. Hospitals were full. We lost loved ones, jobs, and hope. Our children couldn't study anymore. We cannot let this happen again. We should not go back. Get fully vaccinated against COVID-19 and join the millions of Ugandans who are already vaccinated.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
You're still watching Good Morning Uganda Extra with me, Sharon Chomdisha, Mr. Julius Kaketo from UBA, and Ms. Patricia Amito. A very warm welcome once again. And we're of course discussing about the conference that the annual Bankers Conference that's happening on Monday, the 25th and the 26th of July this month, 2022, where the theme is bridging financing gaps in the manufacturing, tourism, and agribusiness sectors to catalyze economic growth and growth post-COVID, post-2021, I beg your pardon. Are financial institutions up to this task and responsibility? Something that they've been trying to help us understand. If you're a financial institution out there, are you doing your best, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I wanted to find out actually, how can borrowers ready themselves to access financing? You know, as one of the, or is that one of the things that you're going to sort of help enlighten them more about when it comes to the conference? Mm.
Yes, Sharon, I think it's going to be a very key discussion topic, getting borrowers ready for financing, because access to finance involves quite a number of factors. To become a preferred borrower in the eyes of a financial institution, there are quite a number of things around your discipline, business acumen, opportunities, the way you see them, your record keeping, your compliance with laws and regulations, the number of factors that contribute towards your risk profile, your history in terms of behavior in other financial institutions, whether you've had the discipline and a good record as a borrower. That opens up new opportunities in terms of other alternative forms of financing. One of the things that are going to be discussed is the alternative forms of financing, in addition to the traditional forms of financing. Mm-hmm. Today in Uganda, we also have, within these sectors, we have quite a number of schemes to support borrowers recover. Some of these have been done in tandem with partners or government, and there are quite a number that you can't go into details here. Like in agribusiness, you've got what you call the SCF, Agriculture Credit Facility, at a very subsidized rate of 12. But the question is a borrower ready to take this money? It's very important as borrowers to ready themselves for this kind of opportunities. You've got multilateral, or you have development partners supporting, like Abi Finance supporting the agriculture sector, those without securities being able to borrow. But at the end of the day, a lot of work is with the borrower to get themselves ready. And at the conference, the whole idea is to share a lot of information that will help these businesses go back actually and get themselves ready for this kind of opportunities.
You talked about how this is a key factor that you're going to be discussing. Why is that important? Have you discovered that this is one of the areas that needs all the attention? Like, why is this one of those key factors for the borrowers? Why do you want to teach them and help them understand?
It's very important for business sustainability that a borrower actually appreciates how a bank works and how a bank lends money for the borrower to optimize the business opportunity. You can easily miss out just because of one or two things that you haven't done. So it's really a journey, and we think borrowers now need to move the journey with us. They need to move the journey with the banks and actually appreciate and know what makes a good borrower, what brings down risk profile of a borrower, how can a borrower access other alternative forms of financing that could be cheaper or more relevant to their business, and that is going to be a key area of discussion. Yeah.
Now, I believe, sorry, do you have something to add?
Yes, sorry, I just wanted to add something small. One of the things also that will be at the conference is there's going to be a lot of sharing of experiences. Like I said, there'll be manufacturers, traders, tourism players in the room. So there are speakers from, say, manufacturing who are going to share the experiences of how they've managed to get to where they are. What are some of the challenges that they faced and how did they deal with some of these challenges? Even on the side of tourism, we'll hear from really the doers, the players in there, of what is it that needs to be done, what have they struggled with, and it's going to be a point of learning for both the fellow manufacturers or fellow sector players, but also for us as a financial sector. There are things we will want to pick up on that will then help us in our decisions or discussions about what are some of these initiatives or programs we can then craft to support the challenges or to address the challenges that we have had from the people that we're actually targeting. Yeah.
Okay. Now, you talked about agribusiness earlier on as one of those that was a risky one because it's seasonal, you're not sure about the ins and outs sometimes. So how are you making it easier for the people in this sector, or how are you even going to help them as the Annual Bankers Association?
So agribusiness, like the Vice Chair mentioned, is a huge, agriculture sector is a huge employer for many of our people. And in this, there are so many initiatives or interventions that have come up along the way to kind of help this sector prosper. And if you look at the value chains, there are different input points. There are those who supply raw materials for some of these industries. There are those who deal with markets themselves. There are those who actually do the actual planting. And there are different, more efficient ways that have come up that actually address the concern of you don't have to do the hard. In the past, we used to say, if you're going to the garden, you're going to use a hoe. There are better mechanisms that have come up along the way. And we are saying some of these financing towards agriculture does not have to be in the traditional, I give you money as a financial institution after a grace period of, say, 1 month, then I start to chase. We're saying this agriculture sector depends on seasons. How can we support them with that in mind? That I may not, if I lend you money, I may have to wait for 6 months to actually have you start to make payments, because we are speaking to what can we work around to ensure that we support you. But also, in terms of efficiency, we talked about greening, we talked about climate financing. Those are some of the alternatives that speak to some of these SMEs who are actually dealing in greening initiatives that support the different agriculture, whether it's agriculture or manufacturing. And it's an agenda that, as Uganda, as a country, we need to also align, because it's a global drive now for us to promote greening, to promote environmental conservation, for us to be seen to actually support the social perspective also of the communities that we serve.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so there is also unexploited potential in the tourism sector. Do you want to tell us a little bit more on how you want to play a role in helping that sector?
Unexploited potential, like I had mentioned earlier, that's also a major concern. Tourism has a value chain behind there, or a number of people behind it. If you just take, I know there are hotels, yes, but behind, say, a tourism activity, there are tour guides, for example. Now, these are people in the community who will work with the tourists to the destinations that you're going to. They are the tour operators themselves, the guys who drive the vans. There are people who serve the restaurants. There are restaurants in many of these tourist locations. Accommodation. Once you go on a tourism adventure, you need to rest. So there is accommodation, there are those providers of accommodation. But most importantly is how do we support these players within that space to embrace digitization. I don't have to move with cash when I go to destination X. How can my payment be enabled or received without me necessarily utilizing the cash element? That calls for engagement first for the tour operator, that stakeholder to appreciate that, yeah, this is actually making my work simpler, making my work easier. So I need to want to learn more about it and put it in my business because it will make my business even advance further. And these are some of these are just the tip of an iceberg of what the conversations are going to be like. Digital still remains major. We were joking around one time and said, you know, people used not to think digital payments or use of card until COVID came. COVID kind of forced people to align quickly to digitization. And if we took like 2 or 3 years to get people to embrace this, COVID took us like 3 months. And everybody was, yeah, I need a platform that I can actually continue to transact on. Yeah.
Was that also a wake-up call to the...
It was a welcome for us because we had these engagements, but it was slow. But now it was very fast. Yeah.
It was fast-tracked.
Yes.
No, I just wanted to comment on tourism. It has a knock-on effect even on other sectors of the economy. Put it simply, if we receive 2 million visitors coming into the country, they'll have to feed. Yes. So automatically you're boosting agriculture indirectly, but through tourism. Every tourist, every visitor into the country spends a certain amount of money locally. And this money moves across the entire economy because they'll have a taxi, say from the airport, they'll have accommodation somewhere, they'll feed, they will do laundry, they may visit a game park, they may go for entertainment. So somehow one person is impacting on quite a number of people. If we can be attractive enough to promote tourism and bring in as many visitors as possible, given already our heritage and a lot of advantages Uganda has, it has a very big knock-on effect on the entire economy. So I just wanted to add that in terms of tourism.
Okay. Yeah. Now, UBA was formed in 2017.
The conference.
Sorry, the conference.
Yes.
The conference started. The conferences started in 2017, and I believe you didn't look at. Oh, we might have a pandemic in a few years to come, and all that. So I'm just wondering if there's anything that changed once you were hit by the economy. By COVID-19. Did anything change? Whether it was perspective or the things that you wanted to now help financial sectors or people understand better. Is there anything that also changed in your doings? You know, to sort of help all these other sectors, or what the conferences should even start to look like?
I think the theme for current year actually answers that question. If you look at the previous themes, like banking for the future, you touch one area here and there. This time we've said what is most important to us as Uganda, the Uganda's economy. Let us go there. Let us go for agribusiness, let us go for manufacturing, let us go for tourism. Once you address those three sectors, they will really make a very big impact. They will create it's a big catalyst for economic recovery and growth. So that is what has changed. Unlike the previous years, this time we've really gone for more of a need than choosing a topic to talk about. It is more of what do we need today? What is going to work today? What does Uganda's economy need today? And that's where we are focusing. Yeah.
Anything else you want to add, Alito?
Pretty much aligned with our vice. That need to, maybe just to add, what changes, we listen more. Yeah? We listen more. We saw the sectors that were really hard hit by the pandemic in terms of lockdown. Hotels, if you walked into a hotel during the time when there was lockdown, it was a ghost town. A place that we used to have was a buzz of activities. You walk in and you're not even sure of whether this will come back to where it was. And we said, no, we need to find something where we can support these guys come back to where they were. The economy opened and businesses started to come back slowly. But I think it will take them time to come back to where they were before, before the COVID pandemic happened. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I wanted to add.
Okay. Now, given the centrality of the industry to the economy, what's your sense about the industry's recovery by extension of the economics recovery?
I think we've spoken to this. These sectors are key for if we are to realize economic growth for Uganda. Manufacturing, because of the multiplier effect that they all have. Invest in this, you are touching on a couple of other people within there that are supporting those sectors. And manufacturing, of course, I talked about expansion of markets. How do we increase our exports? The Ministry of Trade has been very vocal about BUBU, Build Uganda.
By Uganda.
By Uganda, Build Uganda. How do we come in to support this? The AFTA agreement was signed. What are some of the things we can do to help people tap into some of these markets? And even when you speak to tourism, for example, Uganda has a very beautiful, it's a tourism or tourist destination that anybody would want to be at. I've done my couple of trips, and I have that appreciation that, yeah, but you also see as you do these trips that there's something that still needs to be done, whether it's with the tour guides, whether it's with the small businesses that you find. You can find a small business of just a small table that has those crafts in a very small location, and you say this can actually be better if there's some investment that is done in it. Yeah. So it's that conversation that we want to see, that, and we would have government in the room also as well, to say that we want to work with you to see how we spur this growth for our economy, and various stakeholders, development partners, their investments that they will also partner with us on to still drive the specific agenda of growth.
Vice?
No, I fully concur with Patricia's comments. So I'm in agreement.
Okay. Yeah. For this conference, why 2 days? Should it even have been a week?
No.
We're giving us little time, yet we feel like there's so much.
It's really getting all these players, stakeholders in one place for a week, I think is also difficult in the first place. You can get them for 2 days, but getting everyone for 5 days is quite difficult. It's a challenge, but we hear you. And maybe it is something we can also bring on the agenda, but how can we make this longer? It takes a lot to organize a conference, and probably that is very good feedback. If there is need that discussions have to last longer or be more frequent, maybe we can take that back and see how best to make adjustments from our side. Yeah.
But a week is long. Huh? A week is really long.
Yeah.
But if you see the way we've structured the conference is day one, which is Monday, 25th. We are focusing on trade and manufacturing only. Any discussion, any stakeholder, any player within that sector, Monday is the day when we actually sit together and have this very candid conversation. What are we doing? What should we do more? What did we do? What did we do well? So Monday is focusing mainly on manufacturing and trade. Now when you come to Tuesday, we are now looking at tourism, hospitality, and agribusiness. Now again, the sectors within, the players within those sectors then will be in the room with us. And out of each of those days, there are key takeouts in terms of what we need to focus on. And these are discussions that will continue even after the 2 days. Because we would have got their thoughts, and then we have to go back now to the drawing board. And of course from there we then determine this is the issue, these are some of the, who do we need to work with to address this issue. That's part of now the stakeholder mapping that we shall do. Then we start to engage some of these stakeholders. Because at the end of the day, at the end of probably before the next conference, there are things we must be able to communicate and say, from the discussions that we had on manufacturing, on trade, this is what has happened. On the discussions we had on tourism, this is what has happened, and this is what the sector is actually supporting and contributing to. Yeah.
Okay. So, well, we're out of time. Beautiful discussion right there, but do you have any parting remarks as we get to the close of the show?
Okay. I'll start probably. I want to thank, I want to start by thanking our sponsors. We've had sponsors who have been with us for this is the 5th conference, MasterCard. MasterCard has been a title main sponsor for the last events. But specifically this one, I want to really reach out and thank our partners, the regulator, Bank of Uganda, who has partnered with us also for the years that we've hosted this conference. I want to thank our member banks who have actually worked with us directly to put together this and continue to work with us, will continue to work with us to publicize this event, and also in support of implementation of some of the discussions that come out. I want to thank the fintechs, our different partners, development partners. We have a sponsor called BPC. I want to also say thank you to them. And I want to call out to our customers, the general public. If you're a manufacturer, a trader, you deal in the tourism sector, this conference is actually yours, when an opportunity for you to actually speak to us. So registration for this conference is currently on through our Uganda Bankers Association website. You can register. The conference is going to have an opportunity for you to be participating virtually, but also there will be a physical attendance. So I encourage most of us to, as much as possible, join the virtual conversation through our social media handles. There's a lot of information that will be shared there. And thank you, UBC, for hosting us.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to call on the public and all the businessmen and women involved in agribusiness, trade, tourism, and manufacturing to follow this conference. Make time, either attend in person or follow virtually, because there's a lot that you learn, there's a lot you'll take away from the conference in terms of getting yourself ready to borrow and alternative forms of financing, and the discussions, the conversations around how best banks can increase and improve financing to these sectors. I urge you to attend. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair. That was Mr. Julius Kaketo and Ms. Patricia Amito, Communications and Corporate Affairs, discussing and telling us about the 5th Annual Bankers Conference that is going to be on Monday, the 25th of July and Tuesday, 26th of July, 2022. You can attend virtually or even in person. You can always go to the social media platforms on Twitter, that's at Uganda Bankers, for you to understand more, to understand about the bridging, how how they want to bridge the financing gaps in the manufacturing, tourism, and agribusiness sectors to catalyze economic recovery and growth post-2021. Thank you so much for watching Good Morning Uganda Extra with me, Sharon Chondusha. Have a lovely day, and you can stay tuned for more programming coming your way. Goodbye.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.